After 8 years at Phoenix Digital Solutions, I sat across from my boss Kevin in his glass office, watching him avoid eye contact while delivering the news that would change everything. The leather chair felt cold beneath me as he shuffled papers nervously. "Carson, we're making some changes to streamline operations," he said, his voice flat and rehearsed. I could see my reflection in his computer screen behind him, showing the customer database I'd built from scratch. "We're eliminating your position effective immediately." I blinked once, letting the words sink in. 8 years of 60-hour weeks, of building their entire IT infrastructure with my own equipment, of training every new hire who walked through the door. Gone. Just like that. "I understand this is difficult," Kevin continued, still not meeting my eyes. "But we've decided to outsource IT support. It's more cost-effective." He slid a thin envelope across his desk. "Your severance package is inside. We need you to clear out your workspace by Friday." Then came the words that would haunt him for months. "Make sure you take everything that belongs to you. We don't want any confusion about company property." I smiled slightly and nodded. "Of course, Kevin. I'll take everything that's mine." He had absolutely no idea what that meant. 8 years ago, Phoenix Digital Solutions hired me as a junior IT support technician. Fresh out of college, eager to prove myself, I was thrilled to land a job at what seemed like a growing marketing agency. The office was small but modern, with exposed brick walls and those trendy standing desks that made everything feel cutting edge. What they didn't tell me during the interview was that I'd be their entire IT department. When the servers crashed on my second week, I worked through the night to get them running again. When their internet connection failed during a crucial client presentation, I drove to 3 different stores to find the right cable. When their backup system corrupted 6 months of client data, I spent my weekend rebuilding it from fragments. Each time, I brought in my own equipment to solve their problems. A spare router here, some extra RAM there, cables I'd bought with my own credit card. Kevin always promised to reimburse me later, but somehow later never came. "We're still a growing company," he'd say with that practiced smile. "Once we hit our targets, we'll get you a proper IT budget." The targets kept moving. The budget never materialized, but the equipment stayed, piece by piece, building the foundation that kept Phoenix running. By year 3, I wasn't just fixing computers anymore. I was managing their entire digital infrastructure. The custom software that tracked all their projects, I built it. The automated backup system that saved them from data disasters, mine. The security protocols that protected their client information, all my designs. Kevin loved to brag about Phoenix's cutting-edge technology during client meetings. He gestured toward the server room with pride, talking about their robust systems and enterprise-level security. What he never mentioned was that most of those enterprise-level solutions came from my personal credit card and my unpaid overtime hours. When they hired Amy as the office manager, she asked me for an inventory of all the IT equipment. I handed her a 3-page list, every item carefully documented with purchase dates and serial numbers. She looked confused. "Wait, you bought all this yourself?" "Most of it," I said. "Kevin keeps saying he'll set up a purchase order system, but emergencies don't wait for paperwork." Amy frowned. "That doesn't seem right. Shouldn't the company be buying this stuff?" I shrugged. "Maybe when we're bigger." But we were getting bigger. Phoenix had grown from 5 employees to 23. Their revenue had tripled. They'd moved to a larger office space. Yet somehow, I was still buying network cables with my own money. The breaking point should have come during the great server crash of year 6. 3 of their main servers died simultaneously during a power surge, taking down everything from email to client databases. It was a Friday afternoon, naturally, with major deadlines looming and clients expecting deliverables on Monday. Kevin found me in the server room at midnight, surrounded by opened computer cases and scattered cables. "How bad is it?" he asked, his face pale with worry. "Bad?" I said, not looking up from the motherboard I was testing. "But I think I can save most of it." I worked the entire weekend, calling in favors from supplier friends, driving to computer stores across 3 counties, maxing out my personal credit card on replacement parts. By Sunday night, everything was running again. Better than before, actually, with some upgraded components I'd managed to install. Kevin clapped me on the back Monday morning. "You're a lifesaver, Carson. I don't know what we'd do without you." "Maybe we should have a conversation about disaster preparedness," I suggested. "And a real IT budget." He nodded enthusiastically. Absolutely. Let's schedule that for next month when things slow down. Things never slowed down. The conversation never happened. But I kept every receipt from that weekend, just like all the others. By year 7, I'd become Phoenix's unofficial everything guy. IT issues, obviously, but also vendor management, data analysis, process optimization, and training new employees on systems I'd built. My official title was still IT support technician, but my responsibilities had expanded to fill every gap Kevin couldn't be bothered to address properly. The new hires would often ask me about advancement opportunities. How long until I can get promoted? They'd wonder. I'd just smile and change the subject. I'd stopped asking Kevin about promotions after the 3rd year, when he'd explained that they needed to see more leadership initiative from me. Leadership initiative, while managing their entire technology infrastructure single-handedly. The irony wasn't lost on me, but I kept showing up. Partly because I believed Kevin's promises about the company's bright future, partly because I'd invested so much of myself in Phoenix's success that walking away felt like abandoning a part of myself. Every custom script I wrote, every system I optimized, every crisis I solved, it was all building towards something, right? Eventually, Kevin would recognize my value. Eventually, I'd get the promotion and the budget and the respect I'd earned. Eventually became a dangerous word in my vocabulary. The warning signs were there if I'd been paying attention. Small things at first. Kevin started having more closed-door meetings with people I didn't recognize. Consultants, he said, help them optimize their operational efficiency. The accounting department started asking detailed questions about IT expenses, which was laughable considering I'd been subsidizing those expenses out of my own pocket for years. Then Amy mentioned that Kevin had been asking about cloud-based solutions for their IT needs. He wants to know if we can just outsource everything, she said during one of our lunch conversations. Says it might be more cost-effective. Cost-effective. The magic phrase that made executives forget about loyalty, expertise, and the countless hours of unpaid labor that had built their success. I should have started job hunting right then. I should have updated my resume and started networking with other companies. Instead, I doubled down, working even harder to prove my worth. I streamlined their project management system, implemented new security measures, and created detailed documentation for every process I'd built. I thought I was making myself indispensable. In reality, I was just making it easier for them to replace me. The meeting that ended everything happened on a Tuesday morning in March. Kevin called me into his office with that same practiced smile I'd seen 100 times before, but this time it felt different. Forced. Uncomfortable. Carson, I want to thank you for everything you've done for Phoenix over the years, he began, and my stomach immediately dropped. Nothing good ever started with those words. You've been instrumental in our growth. Past tense. He was already speaking about my contributions in the past tense. However, we've made the strategic decision to partner with an external IT firm. Cloud Tech Solutions will be taking over all our technology needs starting Monday. I sat there, processing the words. Cloud Tech Solutions. I knew them by reputation, a budget outsourcing company that specialized in cookie-cutter solutions for small businesses. Everything I'd built, customized specifically for Phoenix's unique needs, would be replaced with generic templates and overseas support calls. What about all the custom systems? I asked. The project management platform, the client database, the security protocols? Kevin waved dismissively. Cloud Tech says they can replicate everything we need, probably more efficiently than our current setup. Our current setup, as if he'd had any hand in building it. This is nothing personal, Kevin continued, sliding the severance envelope across his desk. It's just business. The board wants to see more predictable IT costs, and outsourcing gives us better budget control. Budget control. From the man who'd let me spend 8 years buying equipment with my own money because he couldn't be bothered to set up proper procurement processes. I understand, I said calmly, though inside I was calculating the thousands of dollars I'd invested in keeping his company running. When exactly is my last day? Today, actually. We thought it would be cleaner to make the transition immediately. He had the grace to look slightly uncomfortable. Cloud Tech starts Monday, so we need time to prepare. I nodded slowly. And my workspace? Clean it out by Friday. Take everything that belongs to you, but make sure you don't accidentally take any company property. We'll need everything to be clearly documented for the transition team. There it was again. Take everything that belongs to you. If only he understood what belonged to me. I stood up, shook his hand with a smile that probably looked more confident than I felt, and walked back to my desk to begin planning the most thorough inventory of my career. That evening, I sat in my home office with a spreadsheet and 8 years of meticulously kept receipts. Every purchase, every upgrade, every emergency repair, I documented it all. Not because I was planning for this moment, but because I was obsessively organized and always hoped Kevin would eventually reimburse me. The totals were staggering. Over $40,000 of equipment, software licenses, and infrastructure components. All purchased with my personal funds, all essential to Phoenix's daily operations. The servers that hosted their project management system? Mine. The backup drives that protected their client data? Mine. The network equipment that kept their internet running smoothly? Mine. The security cameras I'd installed after their break-in scare? Definitely mine. Even their phone system ran through hardware I'd purchased and configured personally. I opened Phoenix's website and looked at their About Us page, featuring Kevin's headshot and a paragraph about their state-of-the-art technology infrastructure. Tomorrow, I'd start showing him exactly what that infrastructure was worth. But first, I needed to make some calls. Moving $40,000 worth of equipment would require help, and I wanted everything done professionally. No accusations of theft or damage to deal with later. Wednesday morning, I arrived at the office early with my laptop and a detailed inventory checklist. The place felt different knowing I wouldn't be coming back, like seeing a house after you've already mentally moved out. Amy found me at my desk, looking concerned. "Carson, I heard about yesterday. I'm really sorry." "Thanks," I said, not looking up from my list. "It is what it is. What are you working on?" I showed her the spreadsheet. "Inventory. Kevin wants me to take everything that belongs to me and document what stays. I'm just being thorough." Her eyes widened as she scrolled through the list. "Wait, you bought all of this?" "The servers, the network stuff, even the printer in the conference room." "Most of it. Kevin always said the company would reimburse me eventually." Amy was quiet for a long moment. Then she asked the question I'd been dreading. "What happens to all our systems when you take this stuff?" I shrugged. "I guess Cloud Tech will figure it out. Kevin seems confident they can replicate everything." But we both knew the truth. Cloud Tech specialized in basic setups for small businesses. The custom integrations I'd built, the specialized security measures, the carefully optimized performance configurations, none of that would translate to their standardized approach. Phoenix was about to learn the difference between custom solutions and one-size-fits-all. By Thursday afternoon, I'd color-coded every piece of equipment in the office. Green stickers for items I'd purchased, red for actual company property, yellow for anything unclear. The office looked like a rainbow had exploded, but the pattern was unmistakable. Green dominated everything. Kevin walked through the workspace that afternoon, and I watched his face change as he noticed the stickers. He hadn't realized how much of their infrastructure bore my personal investment. "What's all this?" he asked, pointing at a green-stickered server. "Inventory control," I replied cheerfully. "You wanted clear documentation of what belongs to whom. Green items are mine, purchased with my personal funds over the past 8 years. Red items belong to Phoenix. Yellow needs further research." He picked up one of my receipts from 2018, showing a $3,200 server purchase. His face went pale. "You bought this yourself?" "Emergency replacement during the July crash. You said to handle it quickly, and we'd sort out reimbursement later." Kevin looked around the office with new eyes, seeing green stickers on equipment that powered every aspect of their business. "The conference room display? Green. Wireless access points? Green. The backup battery systems? Green. Surely some of this can stay as part of the transition," he said weakly. I smiled. "You told me to take everything that's mine. I'm just following instructions." Friday morning brought the movers. I'd hired a professional IT relocation company, complete with anti-static equipment and specialized transport cases. Kevin watched from his office as uniformed technicians began carefully disconnecting and packing servers. "You can't be serious about this," he said, approaching me with desperation creeping into his voice. "Some of this equipment is critical for Monday's client presentations." "I know," I replied, checking items off my list as they disappeared into padded cases. "I built those systems myself." But you've got cloud tech starting Monday, right? I'm sure they'll have everything handled. The project management server went into its transport case, taking with it 8 years of client data, project timelines, and custom workflows. Kevin's face grew more panicked with each disconnected cable. Maybe we can work out some kind of arrangement, he said. I could buy some of this equipment from you. I paused, considering. Which pieces? The essential stuff. Whatever cloud tech needs to get us running. I pulled out my calculator and started adding figures. Well, there's the main database server, the backup system, the network infrastructure, the security setup. The numbers climbed quickly. Based on replacement value and 8 years of depreciation, we're looking at about $28,000 for the core systems. Kevin's jaw dropped. $28,000? That's actually a discount. New equipment would cost significantly more. While Kevin frantically called his accountant to see if Phoenix could afford to buy back their own infrastructure, the movers continued their methodical work. Each piece of equipment that left the building took with it a crucial piece of Phoenix's operational capacity. The other employees started gathering around, watching with a mixture of fascination and horror as their digital workplace disappeared into moving trucks. Amy looked particularly stricken. She'd been using systems I'd built for her entire tenure at Phoenix. "What about our project files?" asked Marcus, one of the junior marketing coordinators. "They're backed up," I said. "But the backup drives are mine too. Can you at least leave copies?" I considered this. I can provide cloud tech with data exports, but they'll need to figure out how to import everything into their own systems. The custom database structures won't transfer directly. Translation. Phoenix's new IT team would be starting from scratch, trying to piece together 8 years of business operations from raw data dumps. By noon, the office looked like a crime scene. Cables hung loose from empty server racks, Ethernet ports connected to nothing, and desktop computers displayed error messages where network resources used to be. Kevin stood in the middle of it all, phone pressed to his ear, arguing with someone about emergency IT budgets. The final piece was the conference room presentation system I'd installed 3 years earlier. Kevin had specifically requested something impressive for client meetings: multiple monitors, wireless screen sharing, integrated audio. It had cost me nearly $4,000, but he'd promised it would be essential for landing bigger contracts. As the technicians began dismantling the display, Kevin made one last desperate attempt. "Carson, please. We have the Robinson Industries presentation Monday morning." "That's a $2 million contract." I paused, genuinely sympathetic. Robinson Industries had been a long pursuit, and I knew how important the contract was for Phoenix's growth. But sympathy didn't pay my credit card bills. "I understand the timing is difficult," I said. "But you made the strategic decision to outsource IT support. I'm just an eliminated position now, remember?" His shoulders sagged. "What if I offered you consulting rates to help with the transition?" "What kind of rates?" "Standard consulting fees. Maybe $75 an hour." I almost laughed. I'd been making $38 an hour as a full-time employee, working nights and weekends without overtime pay. Now, as my infrastructure disappeared, I was suddenly worth twice my old salary. "I appreciate the offer," I said, "but I'll be busy next week setting up my new home office with all this equipment." Monday morning, I woke up in my newly expanded home office, surrounded by servers humming quietly in climate-controlled racks. My spare bedroom had been transformed into a professional data center, complete with redundant power supplies and enterprise-grade networking equipment. My phone started ringing at 7:47 a.m. "Carson, thank God." Kevin's voice was strained. "We're having some technical difficulties. Cloud Tech is running behind on the setup, and we really need help with the Robinson presentation." I put him on speaker and continued organizing cables. "What kind of difficulties?" "Well, they can't seem to access any of our historical project data, and the conference room displays aren't working. And somehow our email system is down. That's unfortunate." "What did Cloud Tech say about the timeline for fixes?" "They're still assessing the situation." "Look, I know things ended awkwardly, but could you possibly help us out? Just for today." I considered this carefully. I'd be happy to consult on the issues, but my emergency rate is $150 an hour, 4-hour minimum, payment up front. Silence on the other end. "Then, $150 an hour? Emergency consulting rates. Take it or leave it." "Fine. How quickly can you get here?" I looked around my new office setup, then at my calendar. Actually, I can't. I'm busy today. By Tuesday, Phoenix's situation had deteriorated significantly. Cloud Tech had managed to get basic email working, but none of the integrated systems functioned properly. The project management platform was completely offline, taking with it all of Phoenix's client timelines, resource allocations, and progress tracking. Amy called me that afternoon, sounding desperate. Carson, I don't know if Kevin told you, but the Robinson presentation was a disaster. The displays didn't work, we couldn't access half our portfolio materials, and the whole thing felt completely unprofessional. I'm sorry to hear that, I said, and meant it. I'd worked on the Robinson pursuit for months, developing the technical proposals and system architecture they'd wanted to showcase. Did they reschedule? They pulled out entirely. Said if we couldn't handle our own technology, they didn't trust us with their digital transformation project. $2 million. Gone. Because Kevin had wanted to save money on IT support. There's more, Amy continued. 3 other clients have complained about not being able to access their project portals. And the Henderson Group is threatening to cancel their contract because we can't provide the monthly analytics reports. The analytics reports that were generated automatically by systems I'd built and maintained for 3 years. Systems are now sitting in my home office, doing absolutely nothing. Wednesday brought a parade of problems that compounded throughout the day. Cloud Tech had underestimated the complexity of Phoenix's customized systems, and their cookie-cutter approach wasn't adapting well to the unique workflows I developed over 8 years. Kevin called me 6 times. I answered the 3rd call. Carson, I need to be direct. We're in serious trouble here. Cloud Tech is talking about a complete system rebuild that could take weeks. We can't afford that kind of downtime. What are you proposing? Come back. Not permanently, but as a contractor. Help us bridge the gap while Cloud Tech gets everything sorted. I was quiet for a moment, considering the offer. What kind of contract? Whatever rate you think is fair. Full access, complete authority over the transition process. I'll even buy back whatever equipment you need to keep things running. It was tempting, not because I missed Phoenix, but because the problem solver in me was genuinely curious about how badly things had deteriorated. Plus, contractor rates were significantly more attractive than my old salary. I'll think about it, I said. But I'm not making any commitments until I see the full scope of what Cloud Tech has accomplished so far. Fair enough. Can you come in tomorrow for an assessment? My assessment rate is $200 an hour. Minimum 4 hours. He agreed without hesitation. Thursday's assessment was both educational and depressing. Cloud Tech had managed to completely break Phoenix's network security, accidentally deleted 2 client databases, and somehow made the internet connection slower than dial-up. Their lead technician, a recent graduate named Tyler, looked overwhelmed and exhausted. I've never seen systems configured like this, Tyler admitted. Everything's integrated in ways that don't match our standard deployment models. I nodded sympathetically. That's because they were custom-built for specific workflows. It's not necessarily better or worse than standard approaches, just different. Kevin hovered nearby, watching me examine the carnage with obvious hope. So you can fix this? I can fix anything, I said confidently. The question is whether you want to pay what it costs. I spent the rest of the day documenting Cloud Tech's mistakes and developing a recovery plan. The scope was enormous, essentially rebuilding 8 years of customized infrastructure from scratch, but this time charging professional consulting rates for every hour. By 6 p.m., I had a comprehensive proposal ready. Kevin's face went white when he saw the numbers. $60,000? That's for complete system restoration, data recovery, security implementation, and staff training, plus ongoing support during the transition period. We can't afford that. I shrugged. Then you can't afford to fix this properly. Friday morning brought the news I'd been expecting. Amy called me with the update. Kevin spent all night on the phone with the board of directors. They're not happy. About the consulting costs? About everything. The failed Robinson presentation, the client complaints, the complete IT meltdown. Apparently, this is exactly what they were trying to avoid by outsourcing IT support. I couldn't help but smile. The board had wanted predictable IT costs, and instead they'd gotten a $60,000 crisis plus whatever Cloud Tech was charging for their ongoing failures. There's more, Amy continued. 3 more clients have suspended their contracts pending resolution of the technical issues. And the Riverside project just got canceled entirely because we can't provide the automated reporting they require. The Riverside project had been Phoenix's most profitable monthly retainer, $15,000 recurring revenue, gone because they couldn't generate simple Excel reports that my systems had been producing automatically for 2 years. What's Kevin's plan now? Honestly, I think he's panicking. He's been locked in his office all morning, making calls to emergency loan services. Emergency loans. To pay for fixing problems that wouldn't have existed if he'd just kept paying me $38 an hour. Monday of the following week brought a call I hadn't expected. Not from Kevin, but from Robinson Industries CTO, Michael Rodriguez. Carson, this is Mike Rodriguez from Robinson Industries. I got your number from Amy at Phoenix. I understand you used to handle their technical infrastructure? That's correct, I said carefully. We were impressed with the technical proposals Phoenix presented during our initial meetings. Very sophisticated stuff. But when we came in for the final presentation, everything fell apart. Amy mentioned you'd recently left the company. I was eliminated as part of a cost reduction initiative. Mike was quiet for a moment. Would you be interested in discussing a direct consulting arrangement? We still need the digital transformation services that Phoenix was proposing, but we want to work with the person who actually understands the technology. This was interesting. Robinson Industries as a direct client, without Phoenix as the middleman. What kind of scope are we talking about? Complete overhaul of our project management systems, data analytics platform, and client portal integration. Essentially everything that was in Phoenix's original proposal, but implemented properly. The contract Phoenix had lost because they couldn't run a presentation. Now being offered directly to me. I'd be very interested in discussing that, I said. Tuesday brought another unexpected call, this time from the Henderson Group. Their operations director, Caroline Walsh, had also gotten my contact information from Amy. Carson, I hope you don't mind Amy sharing your number. We're having serious issues with Phoenix's service delivery, and she mentioned you might be able to help directly. The Henderson Group had been one of Phoenix's oldest clients, dating back to my second year with the company. I'd personally built their entire analytics reporting system and had been managing their account for 6 years. What kind of issues are you experiencing? Everything, frankly. The monthly reports we depend on haven't been generated in 3 weeks. The project portal is completely offline. And when we call Phoenix for support, we get transferred to some overseas call center that doesn't understand our systems. Cloud Tech is budget support model in action. We're considering canceling our contract with Phoenix entirely, Caroline continued. But we still need the services. Would you be willing to take us on as a direct client? The Henderson Group contract was worth $8,000 monthly, nearly $100,000 annually. Phoenix's second largest account, about to walk away because Kevin had wanted to save money on IT support. I'd be happy to discuss a direct arrangement, I said. When would you like to meet? By Wednesday, I had scheduled meetings with 4 of Phoenix's former clients, all interested in working with me directly. Word was spreading through their professional network that the technical expertise behind Phoenix's services was now available independently. Kevin finally called that afternoon, his voice strained and desperate. Carson, I don't know what you've been telling our clients, but I need you to stop. I haven't been telling them anything. They're calling me. 4 of our biggest accounts have asked to terminate their contracts this week. They all mentioned wanting to work with you instead. I leaned back in my home office chair, surrounded by the humming servers that used to power Phoenix's success. I'm not soliciting your clients, Kevin, but I'm also not turning down legitimate business opportunities. This is killing us. We've lost over $250,000 in annual revenue just this week. $250,000. More than 6 times my annual salary, vanishing because Kevin had thought I was too expensive to keep on staff. That's unfortunate, I said. But you made the strategic decision to eliminate my position. I'm just adapting to the new market conditions. Come back, please. I'll double your salary, give you equity, whatever it takes. I appreciate the offer, but I'm not interested in employment anymore. I've discovered I prefer being my own boss. Thursday morning, I signed my first direct contract with Robinson Industries. $250,000 for a complete digital infrastructure overhaul, more than 6 times what my annual Phoenix salary had been for a single project. The Henderson Group meeting that afternoon went equally well. They wanted to maintain their existing analytics systems, but under direct management, which meant essentially recreating everything I'd built for Phoenix, but with proper ownership structures and professional rates. Amy called me that evening with the latest Phoenix updates. Kevin had to let go 3 more people today. They can't afford payroll with all the lost contracts. I'm sorry to hear that, I said, and meant it. The other employees weren't responsible for Kevin's poor decisions. There's talk about shutting down entirely. The board is meeting tomorrow to discuss liquidation options. Liquidation. 8 years of building Phoenix's success, and Kevin's cost-cutting measure had destroyed the company in less than 2 weeks. What about you? I asked. Any plans? Actually, I wanted to ask, if you're building a consulting practice, do you need an office manager? Someone who understands client relations and project coordination. I smiled. Amy had been one of the few Phoenix employees who'd consistently treated me with respect and professionalism. Let's talk. Friday brought the news I'd been expecting but hadn't wanted to hear. Phoenix Digital Solutions was officially closing its doors. Kevin had called an all-hands meeting to announce the liquidation, effective immediately. Amy texted me afterward. It's over. Kevin looked like he'd aged 10 years in 2 weeks. He kept apologizing to everyone, saying he'd made a terrible mistake. A terrible mistake. 8 years of my expertise, $40,000 of my personal equipment, and countless unpaid hours of labor, all dismissed as a cost-cutting measure. Now Phoenix was gone, taking with it the jobs of 22 people who'd trusted Kevin's leadership. But from the ashes of Phoenix's collapse, something new was emerging. Robinson Industries wanted to expand our contract to include 3 additional subsidiaries. The Henderson Group had referred me to 2 other companies in their network. Amy had agreed to join my consulting practice as operations manager. Within a month of Kevin telling me to take everything that's mine, I had built a consulting business with more revenue potential than Phoenix had ever achieved. The equipment humming quietly in my home office, servers, networking gear, backup systems, was no longer just expensive hobby purchases. It was the foundation of a professional consulting practice that clients actually valued and compensated appropriately. 6 months later, I received an unexpected email from Kevin. The subject line read simply, "I owe you an apology." The message was longer than I'd expected, full of reflection on his mistakes and acknowledgement of my contributions to Phoenix's success. He'd found a job as a project manager at a larger firm, working for someone else instead of running his own company. "I realize now that I never properly valued what you brought to Phoenix," he wrote. "You weren't just IT support. You were the foundation that everything else was built on. I should have recognized that sooner." He was right, of course. But recognition without compensation is just empty words. I crafted a brief but professional response, thanking him for the apology and wishing him well in his new role. I didn't mention that my consulting practice now generated more revenue in 3 months than Phoenix had produced in entire years. Amy walked into my office, a real office now, in a professional building with actual employees, carrying contracts for 2 new clients who'd heard about our work through referrals. "Good news," she announced. "Both companies want to move forward with full digital transformation projects." I signed the contracts and leaned back in my chair, looking around the office that represented everything Phoenix could have become if Kevin had simply valued the people who made success possible. When he told me to take everything that's mine, he thought he was getting rid of an expensive employee. He had no idea he was dismantling his entire business foundation. But I knew exactly what belonged to me. Not just the equipment and expertise, but the relationships, the reputation, and the respect that comes from treating people as valuable assets rather than disposable costs. Phoenix had collapsed, but from its ashes, something far better had emerged.